किञ्चिदोमिति ब्रूयात्
तेन रिच्यते वै पुमान् भिक्षावे सर्वम् ॐ कुर्वान् नालं कामने चात्मने
परागृतमपूर्णं वा
अक्षरं यत्तदोमिति यत्किञ्चिदोम् इति ब्रूयात्
भिक्षवे सर्वं ॐ कुर्वान्
भिक्षां सर्वं कुर्वान् नालं कामनया चत्मने परागृतमपूर्णं वा अक्षरं यदोमिति यत्किञ्चित् ओमिति ब्रूयात् तेन चैत्रं वै पुमान् भिक्षवे सर्वं कुर्वान्
नालं कामेन चत्मने परागरिक्तम् अपूर्णं वा अक्षरं तदोमिति यत्किञ्चिदोमिति ब्रूयात् तेन रिच्यते नान् भिक्षवे सर्वम् ॐ कुर्वान् Thank you. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Parak. One becomes free. Why? One becomes free. Why? Indeed. Puman, a person. Bhikshave, onto a beggar. Sarvam, everything. Om, not. Alam, sufficiently. Kamena, for sense gratification. Cha, also. Atmane, for sense, for self-realization. The utterance of the word Om signifies separation from one's monetary assets. In other words, by uttering this word, one becomes free from attachment to money because his money is taken away from him. To be without money is not very satisfactory, for in that position one cannot fulfill one's desire. In other words, by using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken, especially when one gives charity to a poor man or beggar. One remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. Maharaj Bali wanted to give everything to Vamanadev, who had appeared as a beggar. But Shukracharya, being Maharaj Bali's familial spiritual master in the line of seminal succession, could not appreciate Maharaj Bali's promise. Shukracharya gave Vedic evidence that one should not give everything to a poor person. Rather, when a poor person comes for charity, one should untruthfully say, "Whatever I have given you, I have no more." It is not that one should give everything to him. Actually, the word Om is meant for Om Tat Sat, the absolute truth. Omkara is meant for freedom from all attachment to money, because money should be spent for the purpose of the Supreme. The tendency of modern civilization is to give money in the charity to the poor. Such charity has no spiritual value, because we actually see that although there are so many hospitals and other foundations and institutions for the poor, according to the three modes of material nature, a class of poor men is always destined to continue. Even though there are so many charitable institutions, poverty has not been driven from human society. Therefore, it is recommended here, Bhikshave sarvam om kurvan nalam kamena chaitmane. One should not give everything to the beggars among the poor. The best solution is that of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is always kind to the poor, not only because it feeds them, but also because it gives them enlightenment by teaching them how to become Krishna conscious. We are therefore opening hundreds and thousands of centers for those who are poor, both in money and in knowledge, to enlighten them in Krishna consciousness and reform their character by teaching them how to avoid illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, which are the most sinful activities and which cause poor people to suffer life after life. The best way to use money is to open such a center where all may come live and reform their character. They may live very comfortably without denial of any of body's necessities. But they live under spiritual control, and thus they live happily and save time for advancement in Krishna consciousness. If one has money, it should not be squandered away on nothing. It should be used to push forward the Krishna conscious movement so that all of human society will become happy, prosperous, and hopefully of being promoted back to home, back to Godhead. The Vedic mantra in this regard reads as follows: Paragva etad riktam aksharam yad etat om iti tad yad kinchat om iti what's that? Ahartraiv vaksham tad rikchat. Sat yat sarvam om kurvad rikchat atmana sa kamabhyo nalam swait. So, can anybody very quickly talk about the background of what's going on in Bhagavatam before we go into the topic for today? And I'm going to take a little different approach today. But anybody who can give a very quick background, why is this verse being said? Yes.
So demigods were defeated by Maharaj Bali when he was revived by Shukracharya.
Yeah.
And then their mother, Diti, demigod's mother, she was very concerned about them, and her duty was to protect her sons. Because of that, their father, Kashyap Muni, he was advised by Lord Brahma once about Payovrat and to have offspring. If you do Payovrat, you
Right.
can have God as your son, I mean Supreme Personality of Godhead as your son. And as per the advice, Mother Aditi, she follows Mother Aditi, she follows it, and Lord appears to her and kind of takes birth as Vaman Dev. And Vaman Dev is a Brahman. When he goes to Bali Maharaj, where he was kind of organizing a sacrificial ceremony. At that time, as soon as he sees Vaman Dev, and he has always been very compassionate towards Brahmins, Bali Maharaj, because his ancestors are Prahlad Maharaj.
Right.
So he asked them, like, how can I serve you? And then the story goes where Lord Vaman Dev asked for 3 pieces of land.
Correct.
And right after that, we did not read, I mean, the verse from verse number 24 to 41, I guess. We skip the verses. We were to read those translations today.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically what is happening is, as Prabhu rightly mentioned, Vamanadev has approached Bali Maharaj. His intention is very clear that the control of the 3 world should be as per the structure that is defined. Like Indradev being the king of the demigods needs to be the one in control, and that, let's call it the government structure as Krishna has designed, it has to remain in that ways. In order to re-establish that, he's going and in the name of charity, he's asking for these 3 steps worth of land. Now, Bali Maharaj, did he know who Vamanadev was and what his intentions are? Okay, subjected to interpretation. Is Shukracharya being able to understand what's going to happen? Yes. So, now the problem that occurs is, there is a decision that has to be made. Like, we have to make a particular decision. There is always this problem statement that exists with us, which we, in general, Srila Prabhupada has given the term called duality. To do or not to do. Right? So, what should be done? Arjuna was in a similar situation. Everybody has been in similar situations. In this case, Bali Maharaj is seemingly more determined. This is what I have to do. So, our topic today is going to be around how is everybody taking these decisions? And from that perspective, coming to the verse itself, I'm going to use a little of corporate jargons for a while. Excuse me for that deviation for a minute. What I'm trying to establish is using these terminologies just simplify a certain things, set up a basic concept, but also to kind of establish, all this beautification of things that exists in the corporate worlds or in the motivational speakers' talks and everything is nothing but coming in from the scriptures also. Right? So, little different approach. I'm actually going to write today. Okay. So, first thing first, okay? Whenever we have to make a decision, whenever we have to talk about certain thing, how do we start? We have to have certain guiding principle. If you are trying to reach a destination, you have to, and you're using, say, for example, GPS, you need to know the destination, you need to key in the destination. The path might vary a little bit here and there, but if your destination has been understood correctly, your objective has been understood correctly, you will reach there. Agreed? Okay. So that goal, now I'm using a terminology that we use in the corporate world in order to say, let's take an example in terms of saying, if I'm calling in a meeting and what do we want to do in that meeting? That objective also has to be understood so that that meeting is productive enough. Okay, tell me if you know this term or not. So it's called POAD, pod. Anybody knows this term? No? Oh, it's going to be fun. P stands for purpose. What is the purpose? Why are we meeting? What are we trying to do? Purpose is more of a longer term vision in terms of your vision, where do you want to be? O stands for your objective. What is the objective? What are we trying to meet? Again, in a relatively shorter term. A stands for agenda. How am I going to do that? If I am in a meeting, what are we going to discuss? Who is going to talk when? What are the topics we are going to talk about? Etc. etc. And finally, D are the deliverables. These deliverables are basically what is the takeaway. What is that we are trying to get out as outcomes which would help me meet my purpose and objective. Fair? That's basically the definition. Why do we do this? Basically, we try to do, like, let's say, for example, we are doing a Rath Yatra organization meeting. We will have to have a very defined set of purpose and objective of what are we trying to do in that meeting. Are we trying to create a schedule? Are we trying to say what stalls are going to exist, etc., etc. Right? Once we have done that, the derivative of that is what is important. The derivative of what comes out is this first circle, in which we'll call it the plus circle, or we can call it the green circle. Okay? What does that mean? Anything and everything that falls within this circle is what is going to help me meet my purpose and objective, is going to help me get towards my deliverables. So all that is good to do. So when we say in green, it's basically something that we will do more, because it helps us meet our objective. Then there is a certain little boundary on top of the no man's land. Let's call it the neutral land, or it's going to be the yellow area, which are areas which are not directly related to our purpose or objective, but it is something which we are doing in order to make sure we are able to meet or not deviate too much into the oblivious, there is still certain things that we end up doing, even though they don't have much of a meaning, but we still do it because there is no harm in doing it. But it just kind of helps us a little bit to push towards getting towards the green area. Okay, so the yellow is like you would do, but you will do it less. Fair? Finally, now anything that lies outside in the entire of the universe, what will that be? The negative area or a red area. The red area is do not do. Fair? You're okay with that? So once we have defined and understood our objective, our purpose, then we are easily able to contemplate and come to a point in saying what I am doing. Is that lying in the green, yellow or red region? Right? Let's take an example. If we are discussing about the Rath Yatra celebrations and its organization, and we are talking about, the budgeting, let's say, for example. We have total so much of donation, what department is going to get what, etc., etc. Now, all of a sudden, somebody starts talking about and saying, but you know what, there is so much of problem in the parking outside. This construction is happening. How are people going to come for this meeting? Now, is this aligned with the objective? So what region is it going to lie in? I'll say red, because that's not the topic of discussion. We are not talking about how to make devotees comfortable in being able to come to the temple. We are talking about how to organize Rath Yatra. So that will become the area that we are not going to talk about. As soon as such a topic comes, we know it is not aligned. So we'll say pause, park this point, we'll talk about it afterwards. Let's focus on our objectives. Fair? On the same page? So once we are clear with the goals, then we are able to very easily segregate out saying this is what we need to do and this is what we will not do. Right? And that is how our segregation, prioritization, everything becomes possible. 2 more minutes from the materialistic perspective, okay? So how do I use this, for example? I'm into a job profile where at a given amount of time, if I have 2 meetings, that's a good day. I have at one time at least minimum 2 meetings that I have been invited to. How will I decide which one to go to, which one not to go to? What is my role? Why am I given the salary? What is my boss expecting me to do? How will I get my promotion? That is defining my goal. Anything which is in alignment to the deliverables that I have to make, to the objectives, I will say I'm going to that meeting will be a green one. Any meeting which is just for information's sake, which just helps me to do a little socializing with others in order to be able to get that favor done for something that I have to ultimately deliver, will be my yellow zone, which is just socializing. Anything which is totally not related to what I'm doing and I'm invited to it will be the red meeting. I will ignore it. So it helps me now in prioritization. If there is a conflict between a red and a yellow, I know I don't care. If there's a conflict between a green and a yellow, I know I'm going to the green, and so on and so on. It's rock, paper, scissors. Right? So having talked about that now, having established a pretty basic principle, now let's talk about something important. Now let's define or understand these very same things from a Krishna consciousness perspective. Let's go back to...
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I always get confused between purpose and objective.
Just understand it as purpose is more of a longer term and objective is of a shorter term. Same thing, but the span that you're talking about is relatively more. Purpose, if you're doing a meeting, purpose is more of what is your project purpose. Objective is what is the objective of the meeting. Let's put it that way. Easiest ways to understand it. Fair? Okay. Let's talk from a Krishna consciousness perspective. Okay, now the answers can be different. I've thought of a couple of answers. I was meditating on this for a while. But when we are talking about in a Krishna consciousness perspective, what is our ultimate purpose? I will say that's a deliverable. That's a product. Okay. So for me, the way I see it is, and different ways we can define things differently, not a problem. So I will say being Krishna's Nitya Das is my purpose. Krishnere Nityadas. So why is that verse being given? Like Jivere Swarupohi Krishnere Nityadas, because that's the guiding, like the principle that is the lighthouse that is helping us out in getting the direction. What is my objective? Is to please Krishna with my actions at every time, place, and circumstances. What is my agenda? How will I attain all of these things? In this context, I will follow my Guru. And what is my ultimate deliverable? What is it I'm trying to get out of all of these actions? Is love of Godhead. Right? Once I've done this, anybody disagrees to this? Like as being what we are trying to do in Krishna consciousness? No? Once we have defined this as, in Krishna consciousness, this is our purpose, objective, agenda, deliverables, then now it becomes easy for me to define my reds, the yellows, and the greens. So what would my green become as an example? My green would become is anything which is supporting my Krishna consciousness. All the favorables. Sorry for the writing. Which could be like, for example, my sadhana. There are things which we have to accept what is favorable, we have to reject what is unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness, is what Nectar of Devotion says. Again, everything comes from the scriptures. 6 things that we have to be enthusiastic about, 6 things that we are not supposed to be enthusiastic about. Next from instructions. All of these things is the same principle. Our acharyas knew all of these basic concepts and everything, which is in a much better and deeper way than what the current corporate world understands. So what we understand in Krishna consciousness is also going to help us everywhere else also. That's just a byproduct. Okay? So green, anything which is favorable. Red, we clearly know, are the ones which are which we are supposed to be avoiding. Non-devotee associations, offenses. Let me just take offenses as an example here. Anything that we have been told, do not do. Like following of regulative principles, green. Anything which is sense gratificatory is red. What does yellow come in Krishna consciousness? The borderline case. Any example? Yes.
Your job, your profession, in material world.
Yes, we can say it that way. Any example?
Having a conversation about a Krishna consciousness with the Mayavadi.
Having Krishna consciousness conversation with the Mayavadi. Yes, if you're strong, then that can also come. Yes, Prabhu?
Studying in college or university.
Studying in college and university. The example that I thought of, these are all appropriate. Again, different ways to think. Right? The way I thought of an example was, I'm right now using an iPad. Is buying and spending money on this iPad and using that, is that a green, red or a yellow? Will be different. I call it yellow. Why? Because why am I using it for? Am I getting distracted with it or not? Etc. etc. will define. This is the caution area for us, right? If I'm using it for lectures like these, if I'm using it for reading my books, if I'm reading it to take notes, fine. But if I start watching movies on it and do other things, now you're going to the red zone. So this is that gray area. The one good example of a yellow in Krishna consciousness would be, you're trying to push towards the greens. Okay? What are we supposed to eat?
Prashadam.
What is the definition of a prasadam? That we cook with love and devotion and offer with love and devotion. So, by that definition, anything if we buy from the market, and even if we offer it to Krishna, will not be under the category of prasadam, right? That's not the green zone. It will be, that is what you would call it the yellow zone, for example. Where you're not supposed to do it. That's not the standard. But let's say, for example, I can't cook sweets at home. I don't know how to do it. I've still not come to the point of being able to learn to do that. But it's Gaur Purnima. Now I want to offer something. So I buy from the market and I offer. Is that the right thing to do? No. Is that the expected standard by Srila Prabhupada? No. But I'm doing it in order to, fill in the gaps of my incapabilities right now. Is that allowed? No. Srila Prabhupada mercifully would still support you in that effort to try and meet that gap, but still not good. So it's yellow, that's why. It's still not that you're not offering at all. It's not in that sense gratificatory mode because you're still trying to serve Krishna. So it's yellow. That in between area. Okay? Alright. So this is from a Krishna consciousness perspective. Same thing let's do for a materialistic person. Yes, Prabhu.
So Prabhu, everything and anything can be used in Krishna service.
Yes.
So how can we define that?
Anything and everything can be used in Krishna's service, but you have to be trained to use it properly, right? So when we say everything can be used, the money that you use to buy from things from the market can be used to buy the raw ingredients and cook for Krishna also. So it can be used in that way. So that is what it means. But that does not mean that anything and everything, which means I go and buy meat also and I can offer it to Krishna because, anything can be used in Krishna's service. I'll use meat in Krishna's service now. That is not what it means. Right? Any circumstances that we have, any resources that we have can be used for Krishna's service. Right? But we have to know how to use it properly. Okay, now from a materialistic perspective, my spelling is incorrect. People who are not intelligent, what is their purpose in life?
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification. I'm calling it being the center of enjoyment.
Accumulation of money.
Yes, again with the purpose of being able to be the center of all the enjoyments. The purpose, I would say, that what they're trying to do is maximize pleasure. Pleasure of what? Pleasure of senses. That's the objective. I have to maximize it. How do I do that maximum ways? That's all. Agenda. How do they want to do it? By anything. By hook or crook. Perfect. By hook or by crook. No matter what it takes, I want to get my sense gratification. And the deliverables I'm saying is basically the different components of pleasure. Okay? Which is, for example, fame, wealth, beauty, whatever. These are different components that you're trying to get with the objective to maximize your pleasures in order to become the sense of all enjoyment. Fair? So in that ways, again let's come to this point. What will be green for them? Whatever leads to enjoyment. Perfect. What is red? Anything which is a waste of resource where they do not ultimately get sense gratification. Right? And the yellow? Can you think of a yellow?
Going to the temple. Going to the temple.
Going to the temple for them is red. Total waste of time.
No, but they ask for things, right?
They ask for things. Yes. If you are from that perspective, then yeah, maybe yellow. So yellow, I see it is, for example, what the materialistic person will do is they will go to these different events to socialize. Right? Let me socialize so that I'm able to create this little business network for me, little do that. That's not directly a sense gratification, but it is helping and pumping the green areas. So let's say socializing. Okay? You okay with this? So this is how the viewpoint of a materialistic person and a Krishna consciousness person will differ. Fine? That's how their priorities of what they want to do and what they don't want to do differs. Now, do we see a similarity between what Bali Maharaj is thinking, that he has to give everything to Krishna, versus Shukracharya saying, no, do not do it. You will lose sense gratification. Do we see the difference of opinion over there? That's where it's coming, because the purpose and objective for each of them is different. One sees sense gratification as the most important aspect. The other, Bali Maharaj, he knows at the back of the mind that he is Krishna and ultimately everything has to be done for Krishna. He is of a devotee mindset, even if in a demoniac family. So that's, now let's talk about something else. Now, because this entire conversation is about money. So now let's derive money out of this. Okay? So again, Krishna conscious person and a not Krishna conscious person. From a money perspective, for a Krishna conscious person, what is the green region for spending money?
Books.
Books. Yeah, the Krishna conscious activities in general, which could be for books, paraphernalias, donations, anything. Right? Red?
Giving charity to meat shops or something.
Okay.
Bars.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So let me write only one for now, but you have understood the point. So this is sense gratification. But you're right. Spending money in areas which is against the regulative principles also comes into that. Yellow regions, I'll again take the example of an iPad. Where do I spend the money on it or not becomes the yellow region. Now, who is not Krishna conscious? Green is anything that leads to more money. Any investment that they feel will lead to money. Fair? Red, where no returns are coming. Right? Why should I go to a temple? What's the benefit? If I don't see the benefit of I giving charity to anybody, what is the benefit that is going to come out of it? I will not give the money. Yellow region is again spending on promotions. Other ways to try and get more and more money extracted. It's not going to lead to money now, but maybe it will lead to money sometimes later. That's the maybe area. Fair? That is how they decide to spend money. Now let's in particular talk about charity, because that's the topic of discussion here. Now the charity for a materialistic person, will that be a red, yellow or green?
Yellow.
Yellow.
Okay. You're saying red. Why are you saying red?
Because they don't see any returns in it.
They don't see any returns. What about you?
If like for example they're giving charity to a temple and their name is not going to be printed.
Fantastic. Good point. So mostly the charity for a materialistic person will be red because they don't see returns coming in. But there are certain cases where it could be a yellow or a green, very rarely green, sometimes maybe yellow, because they are able to extract fame out of it. Right? But how many times do we give charity and we ultimately end up getting fame out of it? Very rarely. Right? So that is why they are not very much encouraged in giving charities. So that is how charity has come to the red zone for a materialistic person, useless. Like when you think charity, we mean giving people to feeding hungry people, etc., type charity, not to the temple. Okay? Now let's say for a Krishna consciousness person, is charity to such feeding hungry people, not prashadam, feeding hungry people, giving them something money, okay, go buy something that you want to do, is that a red, yellow or green?
Yellow.
Red.
Okay, let's hear this out. Why yellow?
Because if somehow they're able to give holy name to them while
Yeah, I've kept that out of the scope. Right? Red. So do you see what has happened here? Charity is red no matter what. Especially when one gives charity to a poor person or a beggar, one remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. Red for both. That is what the verse is. A little longer path to come to this conclusion, but that was the objective. Right? Srila Prabhupada over here is very nicely talking about something very important. And this is what purport is coming in, right? Srila Prabhupada is explaining, let's be to the purport, that in the modern civilization, we're spending so much money, we don't know how to spend money. We're trying to feed the poor people, but there's still poor people existing, hungry people existing. So have we solved the problem? No, because you're not solved the root cause of the problem. Right? So all of these things is basically nothing but waste of efforts till when the objectives, the purpose is not clarified and understood. Till when we have not understood from the scriptures that the ultimate objective and purpose of a human form of life is attaining Krishna consciousness and giving Krishna consciousness. We were discussing in the kitchen that there is this amazing verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says that if you have taken birth as a human form and you have not given into the cult of Krishna consciousness that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings, then it's better for you to die. Your life is worth nothing. Right? So such things is basically what is very clearly defining that anything else that we would have done is futile otherwise. How is it futile? All these studies that I have done, taking care of my family, all futile? Trying to get a better living and elevate myself into better life standards, that's futile? Why do we say that? Yes, Prabhu.
Because there is no end, like it is only temporary.
Perfect. As soon as death comes, yes, Prabhu, sorry.
No, sorry, I said you right.
No, I just saying, as soon as death comes, it automatically becomes zero. Is anybody born with a PhD degree? Once you do PhD, you die, it's zero again. Let's go A, B, C, D or whatever language you're learning. It's the same thing again. So any effort put in any of these things is futile. It's not the best use of our resource. So is Bali Maharaj doing the right thing by giving up all his things or not? Sorry. Because he is serving Krishna. Whom does it sorry?
But you don't know he is Krishna.
First thing the first line says utterance of word.
The first line says what truth?
Translated by utterance of word.
Thank you, that helps me. So it very clearly Prabhupada is saying also. Thank you, Prabhu. Bali Maharaj wanted to give everything to Vamanadev, who had appeared to okay, I think there is a verse afterwards or before. Let's look at that, which very clearly says that actually Bali Maharaj knew. He was aware and he wanted to do this. We can look at it afterwards. Don't worry. So basically, Bali Maharaj did know. Even despite the fact that he was born in a demanding family, he had the consciousness which is correct. Okay, let me twist the question a little bit. His guru is Shukracharya, right? Very learned person. How did he come to the conclusion that he has to be rejected if he did not know that this giving of this charity was actually good for him? He knew it, right? So in our case, there's so many people who can act as gurus for us. Our mentors, free advice is available anywhere. And that's the only thing which is free. You can get it from anywhere, right? Even strangers. They're all acting as gurus. They're all trying to teach you something. There's some interesting personalities who would come and try and talk about some nonsense philosophy. We've had a recent person coming into ISKCON, doing that in different centers. He's trying to gather newcomers, talk about some crazy nonsense philosophies, or self-created. How do we know he has to be rejected? And he claims to be of a certain parampara but does not even follow that parampara. How do we know? Till when we don't read. That is why books are the basis. Till when we don't read, till when we don't study, till when we don't try and use our very own intelligence. Even before we started reading the books, understanding what books to be read is the understanding that we came to us because we have been given intelligence. Is it difficult for a person to understand that one has to eat in order to live? Will there be somebody who thinks, I'm not intelligent enough to even understand that I have to eat? That's natural to us. Right? I'm not supposed to be letting fire burn me. Sure, you might have had one experience where you did not understand this is fire and what its property is, but anything which is destructive in nature, you're supposed to be protecting yourself against it, is a natural tendency that comes into us. Because we are eternal living souls, we don't want to die. In the same way, practicing Krishna consciousness and surrendering to Krishna and using our intelligence in order to be able to come to a conclusion that that is the objective of life is natural to us. There are so many different things that happen. There's so many different arguments that we might come into, and the only reason why we deviate ourselves to a different conclusion is because we're not hearing our own selves very nicely. We have some ego, we have some temporary motive objective that we have created in front of us, which is deviating us. So once we have set our goals correctly, once we have created our objective maps by associating with devotees, by reading the books and scriptures, by practicing ourselves and understanding reality as it is, then when that objective is solidified and cleared, then we will not get deviated. We will know the red, blues, the red, greens and yellows, and we will always be in the green zone, no matter what. That is what is the purpose of human form of life. And that is what this entire Leela of Bali Maharaj is also telling us. Okay, we have 2-3 minutes. We can take questions or arguments. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful. You mentioned that charity comes in the red suit, but if we say in Bhagavad Gita, and as a Krishna also, Krishna is known as Govinda, who is taking care of Brahmanas and cows. He gives charity to Brahmanas, and even in before Vedic time also, people used to.
Charity without knowledge is what I was referring to. When we are giving charities to Brahmanas, when we are giving out cows to Brahmanas, that's charity with knowledge. That is under the bracket of Krishna conscious activities, not under the bracket of charity per se. And when I'm saying charity, I'm saying, oh, you are hungry, I'll give you food. You need money, I'll give you money. That is what we are referring to as charity, not that Krishna conscious activity. Right? Yes, sir.
Prabhu, since we did not read the previous verses, what Shukracharya is trying to mention that giving charity to poor people and beggars.
Yeah.
But to Brahmins, it's completely different. Brahmins are not poor in a way, they are not beggars.
Yeah.
We give charity to them, they will take more than what's needed.
The Brahmanas will take more than what is
Real
needed?
Brahman would not take more
Yeah,
than
yeah,
what's
correct,
needed.
correct.
So here, Vaman, they just asked for 3 paces of land.
Right.
So it seemed like very little to Bali Maharaj.
Yeah.
Until Shukracharya told him like this.
What his intentions are, yes.
Everything in that.
Yeah.
So, but at this point, Shukracharya, he was talking from material perspective of poor people, and here Bali Maharaj was trying to see him as a Brahman, and he had felt like Brahman. He is a real Brahman, he would not take to satisfy his senses.
No, so let's understand this. Yes, Shukracharya is looking things from a purely materialistic perspective. He's teaching demons, so he's teaching that philosophy to them. But Bali Maharaj, he understands Krishna conscious philosophy. And irrespective of did he know before what Vamanadev's intentions were and what he's trying to do, or because of Shukracharya saying he understood it, irrespective of that, when he decided to stay put to his promises and keep that promise of his, he knew what is going to happen, and he knew and understood who Vamanadev was. And his intentions was to fully surrender to him. So that is okay.
What was the purpose of Shukracharya? He knew who Vishnu is. He was one of the devotees of Vishnu as well.
Yeah. See, but what was the role he was playing? He was playing the role of being the guru of a demoniac family where sense gratification was the objective. So he was acting as per that.
But he got defamed. Despite having the knowledge,
Right.
having wisdom, all the opulences, political mind and all, and being a devotee as well.
Yeah.
One gets defamed, other one gets glorified.
Devotees are okay to even take defame if that is a service being allocated to them. They don't care about it. Devotees don't serve because they are going to get famous. And that's one important aspect we have to understand is when we are doing services, if I'm saying I'm going to take services only where I'm able to go on the stage, pick up a mic and become this amazing person where everybody's clapping for me and not going to go into the kitchen and wash pots, that's not Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means a fully surrendered servant. And a servant does what a servant is told to do. It could be, go sing the most amazing kirtan, give the most amazing class, or go wash the toilets. irrespective of what that service is, a servant will do it. If we are at an attitude where we are selective about, I want to do this and I don't want to do this, we are still neophytes. That attitude needs to be changing. That's an important takeaway also. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. One last thing, anybody? Yes, please.
So anytime we give charity and Krishna consciousness, is it fully the karma or do we still reap like positive?
If you're doing it as per the teachings of the previous acharyas, as per how they have said, then it is a karma. There's no reaction to it. Like for example, if you're kind of, I do that trick sometimes. So what happened? My boss came back from India with bringing these boxes of sweets, and he's like called up a meeting like this with everybody in there, like 20 people, 25 people, and he's like, it has to be distributed to everybody. I'll do it. Went in. So it's a yellow region, not the best things, but then the first thing I did was very quickly made an offering. Srila Prabhupada, please accept this. And then I distributed to the entire thing. Right? Now again, it's not an offering made with love and devotion, like it was not cooked with love and devotion, but at least for those souls who are there in that room, it's the intentions which matter, not the actual actions. Right? So if you're making a charity as per the instructions of the Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, and you're doing it with the right intentions of being able to give Krishna consciousness to everybody, then it's all a karma.
I remember, so before I came to Krishna consciousness, I hear like charity, if you have like a really bad accident or something that you're destined to do in your life, if you give a lot of charity and you do a lot of good actions, then you can kind of, that bad thing becomes removed.
No, never happens. A good karma never cancels a bad karma. And a bad karma never cancels a good karma. They're not cancelable with each other.
So you have to read.
There's no netting. Yeah, you'll have to suffer both of them individually. All right, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.